Let's
Yes.
do it.
Let's hope we don't screw this up or else it'll ruin our lives.
It'll be horrible. Yes. All right, guys. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, we have author, life coach, teacher, Mr. Holistic, Mr. Ultra Spiritual himself, JP Sears, joining us. Welcome to the show, JP.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you having me. And it would have been really, man, really awkward if you invited me on and then you unwelcomed me in the intro.
It's
So I
true.
feel like we're off to a good start with a welcome.
It's a positive step in the right direction. I can't. No, I'm super happy. I was nervous at first. I was like, okay, is this guy serious? What's he gonna do? Is he gonna throw me a bunch of curveballs? What's he gonna do? But luckily in my research and deep understanding of what you do now, I'm very excited and look forward to talking to you for a little bit. So,
Oh,
um,
excited. And I'm offended that you're not nervous anymore. I wish you were so intimidated by me and the mystery of how I'm gonna chaotically act towards you that you're not offended or not nervous anymore, huh?
I'm offended that you're offended that I'm offended. And if anybody is a fan of your YouTube videos and your channel, they would understand what we're talking about. So, um,
If you want to live a good life, you need to figure out how to get offended by anything
yes,
for sure.
yes. And, as you know, I am a vegan dad blogger. So very, very unique niche there. But I have a powerful, motivated, engaged audience that definitely cares about the vegan movement. But the cool thing is I don't think that they think they're better than anyone else. And, you know, I have to say that most of them would absolutely find the video if meat eaters acted like vegans hilarious. I do too. Um,
Yeah.
what was the motivation behind making that thing?
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for being able to laugh at that and also not take yourself so seriously that you can't laugh at it. And the video, it appears as like that's about vegans. It's like it's not. It's about the human behaviors and human psychological expressions of judgment, entitlement, and controlling that is human nature. It's about those behaviors that at times likes to hide behind noble looking hiding spots. Veganism is one noble hiding spot. Paleoism is another one. I did a video on paleo diet. Meditation, spirituality, yoga, religion, like anything that we identify with can become a noble looking hiding spot for us to pretend like these shadowy behaviors that we have inside and have inherent shame about them. We can pretend they're not there. It's like, no, I'm not being entitled. I'm being gluten free. It's like, no, like I've been gluten free and gluten intolerant for 15 years. And I made a video about 2 years ago called How to Become Gluten Intolerant. And I made that because it's like I got to come to terms with how I am. Like when I go back and visit my family or go out to a restaurant, like I'm acting like an entitled jerk, very controlling. And that it took me a while to come to terms with that isn't gluten free. Being gluten free is over here. That's one thing. Being controlling and entitled is something very different. I can be gluten free and actually be a warm, loving, accepting person. Like, who would have thought? Like, I didn't know I could do that, but I needed to do that because I was losing myself, essentially denying myself, denying my authentic human emotions that were coming out in a misdirected way disguised as being gluten free. So yeah, long story short, the videos are never criticizing the subject matter. They're meant to shine the light through satirism on shadow human behaviors that honestly are okay. But when they work against us, is when we try to hide them and pretend like they're not there.
And what is that? You go into a restaurant and being offended that they don't have a vegan option, or being offended there's not a gluten-free option. What is that inside of us that does that?
And we love to be victims, and I do. I'm not just saying we to like passive aggressively say like everybody else loves to be victims, but I don't. Like I do. It is a psychological archetype, the victim. And the victim archetype, basically, like when we're functioning from it, we're basically coming from a mindset that says, I feel more powerful the more powerless I am. So if I can show up at your restaurant and find a way to victimize myself, like how dare you cook in canola oil at your restaurant? How
Right.
dare you? Like it's your restaurant. Like why
Yeah.
would you run it my way? And how you know how you didn't tell me this had gluten in it. How that the thing I ordered had gluten in it. You didn't tell me that. Like how dare you? And how dare you not be willing to make a new recipe that I'm dictating to you because it's what I want to eat. That's not on your menu. It's me victimizing myself. So we as a we as humankind, when we're coming from the place of victimization, we like to find things to become outraged about so that we can feel powerless about them, so that we can get a sense of victim power through our position of powerlessness. And it's a trap. Like it, by the way, when you point out the trap, people feel victimized that you're calling them a victim.
Right.
So in other words, they'll go deeper into the trap to avoid seeing that they're in the trap. I do this too. So the problem with that is we bleed out our real power in order to stay in the position of being powerless so that we can get the illusion of power, not true power, but the illusion of power. I think self-responsibility and inspired action is where real power comes from. So anyway, that's my delusional thought on why all of us at times, just a matter of not do you do it, but how long, how much, and how often do you do it. So why all of us at times will become victims.
And being able to step outside of yourself, just at a very basic level, being able to step outside of yourself and reflect back and look and say, okay, why am I doing this? I mean, would you say that most people are unable to do that, and that might be kind of the root of most of our problems?
I would, yeah, like I would definitely probably say that you just said that, and I would also probably say that too. I would agree with that. Self-awareness isn't taught in schools. It's taught by wise people in life. So some of us will stumble into their alternative courses, conversations, but it is shocking how we go through at least 12 years of school and self-awareness is never a subject. But I don't know what subject is more valuable than self-awareness. Like, know thyself. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of humbleness to be self-aware in the first place. And then it takes a lot of self-awareness for us to observe where we're losing ourselves. And the essentially the hole we dig and then root into a victimization, there's a lot of self-awareness, a lot of humbleness, and a lot of courage that we need to have in order to feel the fear of essentially giving up a hiding spot that's met our emotional needs. To see and call ourselves out on how we're being a victim is to say, I can no longer as effectively hide in this place because I'm shining the light on it. And it's scary to take away our own hiding spots because that means we have to face and look in the eyes what it is about ourselves that we're hiding in that hole. That takes a lot of courage. So nowhere in our schools do we have courses in how to be the courageous hero of your own life. So those are skills, true courage and true self-awareness. Those are skills that we need in order to have, I think, an awakened life. And they're not conveniently taught in schools. And I think rightfully so. Like these are skills that are so correlated to the human heart that we have to be all in and truly desire to learn them. We can't be told, like, now you're going to learn about courage of the human heart for the next 45 minutes.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, no, like we could intellectually learn about it, but it doesn't mean we're going to embody the learning. So I think rightfully so, we have to we have to decide when and if we're going to go to the school of life about courage and self-awareness.
And just like I believe with a plant-based diet, eating the best you can, you do it for your family, you do it for yourself, you do it for the planet, the animals. Any reason you do it is going to be a positive reason. I think that it's also, we're not predestined to be a certain way because of the way we were raised. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our, my dad was an angry dad, and I love you, Dad. If you're listening to the podcast, he doesn't listen
Yeah,
to the podcast, but
don't get angry, Dad.
yeah, no,
Don't get angry for being called out as you're angry. The
but
truth hurts.
yeah, yeah. So he was an angry dude and had high blood pressure because of that anger and everything else. And sometimes I have some anger stuff that goes on with my own kids. I mean, we got a busy life, things are stressful, and I forgive myself when I get a little angry and I explain to my kids, hey, I was frustrated, or I'll apologize or whatever. But you know, some folks, in my circle, they might say, well, it's just one of my demons. It's kind of one of those things I can't control because it's the way, it's the way I was raised. So
Or I'm in Aries, so it's like I'm
yeah, yeah. But
no self-responsibility.
we have control over that, right? If we choose to, we're not predestined to behave a certain way based on the way we were raised.
Yeah. Yeah. In my opinion, life would be pointless if there was no other option than for us to just replicate the patterns from our childhood in terms of replicate the values and the emotional dynamics, relational dynamics. It's like, why would life take 90 years if we're just replicating the same thing over and over again in a different literal setting? That doesn't make sense to me. And also, from my delusional perspective, the evidence points to the contrary. It seems as though inner fulfillment and meaning in life comes when we are the conscious connoisseurs who decide what are the values that I want to stand for, not just intellectually stand for, but embody through my inspired action. How do I want to relate to people? How do I want to raise my kids? And it's like, thank God you allow yourself to be authentic enough where anger will come out. And is that a symptom of your childhood? Probably. And thank God you can have the awareness of that, because that teaches you to embody a different way, call it a higher vibrational way, more of the time. Like, yeah, you'll probably always have the fingerprints you were born with, but the question is, can we add much more to it? Can you connect with your kids in a more loving, intimate way than what your father could with you? And to me, that's where meaning comes from. And like, to state the obvious, like, yes, you can. You do that. And it's like, how shallow would life be if you and I create a self-imposed prison where we just limit ourselves? Like, no, I can't connect to my children. I can't do art to them. I can't cry in front of my children. I can't be authentic in front of my children because my dad didn't do that with me. It's like, well, maybe my dad not doing that with me, and similar to what you're saying with my father, maybe my dad not doing that with me, painful at times, yes, and maybe that was a great gift, because without that experience, I wouldn't have the contrast to teach me, call it a better way of doing it, a more connected way of doing it with my kids, my girlfriend, the people around me. My dad living angry. It's like, okay, why is he angry? Probably because he's inherently not honoring himself, because he's just trying to worship his, what he needs to do to get his father's approval. That'll never be enough to get his father's approval. So he gets even angrier, maybe experiencing the energy of why my.
Oh, JP, I lost you. You froze on me.
Dad's angry,
Oh,
my
sorry.
friend.
Sorry, there we go. Okay, you paused on me for a second. I don't know if it's it seemed like a little connection thing. But
Yeah, I apologize for that. What was the last thing you heard me say?
um Gosh, JP, I was freaking out over the pause. We were talking.
I, I think this is a test to get us angry.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I was probably just rambling on, telling myself things that I need to hear.
You were talking
But
about
it's
my father and his anger, maybe not being able to please his own father, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's a great blessing. So when we experience essentially the reasons, the vibrational reasons why our fathers were getting angry, which might have something to do with they weren't honoring themselves because they're still trying to live Mission Impossible of trying to get their father's and mother's approval. Maybe that was a great gift.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of a limiting belief and a limitation, maybe it becomes a gift of limitlessness where it teaches me to better honor myself. So, yeah, I think there's no question we can absolutely be the ones that author life beyond our limitations rather than life within our limitations.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for repeating a little bit of that because of our freeze. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. And by the way, the freeze, and you probably hear the birds chirping and
Yeah, tell
squawking.
those birds to be quiet. We're recording a podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's the bird soundtrack I have on so that you think I'm in a natural jungle environment that doesn't have the strongest internet connection, and therefore we had a little disconnect.
It's all good. It's all good. I know you get tons of questions about like, so are you serious or are you, a jokey comedian guy all the time? Like, I don't really want to go into that. I mean, guys, if you really want to know the answer to that question, just check out JP's about page on his website, which will of course be in the show notes, the awakenwithjp.com. But also, guys, the reason I'm having JP on is so he can talk about his new book, the How to Be Ultra Spiritual. And also learn a little bit more about him from himself instead of from comments and other social media, quote unquote trolls or whatever you want to call it. But before we get into the book, JP, I do want to talk about your vegan diet and the way you eat. Do you believe in eating a fully plant-based, vegan diet? Has it always been that way for you? I've heard, from the New Man podcast, you like refused your mother's breast milk or something like that. You're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my character, my ultra spiritual character, is the most vegan man on earth, and so vegan that as a child he refused to breastfeed because of the vile carnivorosity of breast milk. It's very anti-vegan. So me personally, I eat a strict vegan diet and a strict meat-eating diet simultaneously, not mutually exclusive. And in fact, I'll give you a straight answer in a second. But something that amuses me when I see comments online, JP, are you a vegan? Typically I'll answer back and say, no, I'm Caucasian. It's like, no, I'm a Caucasian.
Nice.
So the straight answer to your question is no, I don't eat a strict plant-based diet. I like to eat in a way that is based on what the wisdom of my body seems to be calling for. I like to say that I have zero nutritional dogma other than doing my best to eat in a way that feeds my body and mind in a way that feels great and in a way that's as earthly responsible as possible. So while I personally do feel good eating animal products, not a crap load. I used to eat a crap load, but I was like just getting really dogmatic about like, paleo and like lions eat nothing but meat. So like I want to be alpha like a lion. It's like, I don't think the extremes is where it's at on that spectrum.
Right.
But, on the theme of being earthly responsible, while I personally do feel good eating some degree of meat, like I realize like, okay, there's a crap load of rainforests being destroyed in the Amazon for raising beef. And a lot of it is sold as healthy grass-fed beef that might be healthy for a meat eater and it might be incredibly unhealthy for the earth. So it's like I'm eating very little beef now because it's important to me. Like if I don't know where it's coming from, I don't want to contribute to the destruction of the rainforest. I don't want to eat any animal that's raised in inhumane factory farm conditions. And, for that matter, I don't want to eat plants that are raised in inhumane, chemically farmed conditions either. So, my beautiful girlfriend, Amber, she's on a strict plant-based diet. She's been vegan for 8 or 9 years. And I love that her and I eat in different ways because it gives us an opportunity to practice acceptance, not just have an agreement-based relationship, but an acceptance-based relationship where like I 100% respect her, period. And therefore how she eats in a way that feels best for her and her reasons why, it's like awesome. Like I so support you, babe. And then she looks at me and feels the same. And it doesn't mean that our reasons why we eat the way we do agree with each other. Like they're inherently disagreement, but there's acceptance. Like that's for you, awesome. And that's for you, awesome. Yeah. So I really love that. And I think, any time that we let something that works for us be an excuse to create division between other people, we're just going to religious war and creating division. And I think that makes the health practice very unhealthy on us. It might mean our nutritional health is increased. And I also think it means our heart health and psychological health is decreased if we let our practice be an excuse to create division. And I'm not just talking about eating practices, religious practices, yoga practices, philosophical practices. Like I think in the New Age community, it's so easy for us to say like, I only associate with like-minded people. Yeah, that means you're rejecting everybody else. That means you have created a massive wall of division between you and 99% of humanity. And to me, real health, not only physiologically, but also emotionally, mentally, and community-wise on Earth, real health comes from unity, not division.
I totally agree. I have a lot of husband-wife couples that, maybe somebody gets a bad doctor visit. Their cholesterol's through the roof, or they have, a heart disease creeping up or something like that. And one of the two have to go on a strict plant-based diet that's, recommended by their doctor, or at least cut their meat down to like 5-10%. And let's say it's the wife with the heart issue. The wife says, I'm going to do this. I cook all the meals in the family. I'd really love it if you would come along with me and help me on this journey, do this with me if possible. And the husband might say something like, babe, I'm a steak and potatoes kind of guy. Like, I can't do this. If you want to do your vegan thing, like, that's totally fine. But I have to have, my meat. And that's always one of those situations that you want to help them understand, the man in that scenario, that it's not about just the diet. It's about being there for your partner and understanding. So, if Amber were, if that were your situation, you eat some meat every now and then, and like if Amber were to have some kind of issue where she needed you to kind of try to switch over to a plant-based thing, how would you handle that? And that's a scenario, and if you don't want to talk about it because it's a scenario and it doesn't make sense, but I'm just wondering how you would personally handle that.
Yeah, to me, my connection and relationship with Amber is like one of the greatest priorities of my life. And so any way that I can truly be of support to her, I want to do that. So the idea of favoring nutritional dogma over her and her health and our connection, it's like, I'm steak and potatoes. That dogma is more important to me than you are. Yeah, that's not how I roll. So of course I'd want to, if us having our meals, the same meals, and we're always eating together, if that supports her, and I can, by the way, meals, food is like communion. So if there is so much support that comes from taking part in like the same cup of communion as your partner, of course I'd want to do that. And if I like, let's just say if I was finding like I feel crappy eating this way, then off on my own, I'd supplement like whatever. I'd be the guy in the closet having like a collagen supplement, whatever I'd have to do. Because, I don't think self-destruction has to be a part of it. So it's not mutually exclusive. It's like, okay, if I need to do something outside to take care of myself, if that were to be the case, I do that. But here within the house, within the relationship, I'd want to be anything I can do to be supportive. So I think, there's so much in the way of disconnection in relationships that happens over the guise of food. And I think also in a little bit of a more generic way, one partner says, I want to lose weight. I want to get healthy. And we're eating, kind of the standard American crap. So I want to clean it up. I want to start eating whole foods, and I'm going to make whatever, real whole foods for dinner instead of the coagulated processed crap we're normally eating. And then the husband says, oh no, like we always eat, this is the way we eat. And they resist that. To me, what's really going on is one partner trying to control the other. I'm not going to let things change because I want to be in control. It's nothing to do with the food. And I think we have to realize when relationship challenges come up within the context of food, I would dare say that's a reflection showing us the challenges that were there that we haven't been aware of. So food becomes the mirror. So I think when partners are looking to create nutritional changes and there's starting to be resistance from one partner or the other, what the couple needs to be willing to do is work on their relationship. Because I think the food changes are just the mirror showing us disconnections that have been there. We just haven't been aware of them. But if we're not willing to actually do real work on our relationship, then I don't think we're going to find harmony in the context of food. The context of food to me is just a symptom.
Yeah,
in my delusional opinion.
In your delusional opinion, yes. I think it's so true, in relationships between, any partner relationship, but families too, even older generations. I mean, when we switched to a plant-based diet, it was because of my wife's ulcerative colitis. We found that it was easier on her system, and so it just worked for us. So we're sharing that story, and if anyone wants to listen, we're here to talk about it. But when we made that switch, her family was like so deeply offended, and how could we not think of them, and like what are we going to eat together? It's like, how are we going to eat? And we used to have these meals around the table together, but we don't do that anymore. And it hurts her, and it hurts. We love them. We want to spend time with them, but they are so stressed about the way that we eat that they'd rather just get their KFC and, order it and eat it and then invite us over. And if we want to bring our own food, that's fine, that kind of thing. But it's slowly gotten better. But I wish that they would understand, and maybe there's stuff that we can do better to let them know that it's not about offending them. It's not about us judging them. It's just about what's working great for us. And I would think that, if you have a daughter that's, suffering from this horrible illness, that you would understand why this switch has worked for us. And I'm not saying it's going to heal everything. A vegan diet's not the cure for everything. It's just, it is what worked for us, and it helps her maintain a level of, remission once she gets into it after a flare. So.
Yeah, that's tough. I think one of the 4 agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz is don't take things personally. Easier said than done, and I think every human being on earth needs to hear that at least 10 times every single day. And so it sounds like your wife's family, and it applies to so many other people in this scenario, they're taking it personally, and like doing my best to understand their point of view. I would guess they have a level of self-identification with these are the meals we create, much like Catholics would have identification with, like, we eat this pretend meat of Christ through this styrofoam cracker, probably has gluten in it, and we drink this wine and pretend it's his blood because we're vampires. So they identify with those like foods, if you will. So I think without knowing it, her family would be identifying with, like, we are our food. And if you're saying like our meal isn't for you, then you're saying our meal isn't good enough. And if you're saying our meal is not good enough, then you're saying we're not good enough. And then they get offended by that because they're taking it personally. They're making it about them, when in fact, like, your wife is in probably, when she was going through her major challenge, never before did she need more support. Never before did she need it to be about her. But then, human nature, the family makes it about us. And therefore, what we think is us, we make it about that too, our food. So, like, I get that, not to, like, say, like, okay, you're right, not by any means. It's just like, oh, yeah, like, I understand where you're coming from. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Right. Let's talk about nutrition. Well, we already talked about nutrition. I want to talk about fitness and kind of not only the aesthetics. Like, yeah, it's great to have, good looking muscles and a six pack every now and then if you can, of beer, not on abs. No, I'm kidding. No. But what is that relationship between, exercise and spirituality and everything that's going on in your head? Is there an actual connection between the two?
My delusional opinion is yes, absolutely. And I think we can maybe more accurately ask, is there a disconnection? It's like, probably not. I think the mind is the body is the mind. I think the human being is the human being. And these illusions of separation are convenient, but let's just call them illusions, like where our endocrine system ends and our digestive system begins and our nervous system begins. It's like we pretend they're separate, but in what I believe to be the truth, it's all connected. Everything affects everything. So when we look at, this thing and say, well, this is my hand, we also maybe realize, like, yeah, and this is my mind as well. There's emotions in here as well. And this is, like, my spirit energy is in here as well. So I do believe that taking care of our physical body is absolutely us strengthening our spiritual connection. I do believe it's absolutely us bringing our mind into a more peak state of clarity. And I do believe it's us helping nurture ourselves emotionally. So having an exercise routine that enhances you. We can grind ourselves into the ground with exercise. I'm not talking about the extremes here, but having an exercise routine that helps you. I think having physical practices outside of exercise that stimulate us regularly throughout the day. For me, like, I'll take 5 minutes between appointments and projects, and I'll do body weight squats. I'll do some downward dogs, and I'll stretch. I'll jump up and down because I want to stimulate this miraculous gift I've been given called my physical vehicle. And I do that not just because it's like I feel better, feeling good physically, but because I want to be in a peak physiological and psychological state. So I'll do these microdoses of movement throughout the day because it sharpens my mind, my clarity, my connection to creativity, and I would dare say helps me be in a flow state better. So no question about it. I think we gain so much when we really kind of take the Dalai Lama's words to heart that our body is the temple.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that answer, because it's more than just getting to the gym. I have this article that I put up there, and it's about my evolution of working out. Like in the past, it was like, how much can you bench, bro? Like how much,
Sure.
how much you lifting, and you do it and you check to see who else is looking at you, and you got your stretchy stuff on to show the muscles when you're working out. But nowadays, for me, it's about showing my kids that fitness and working out is a part of my life. It is part of who I am. And so, when I was back in the day, like 5 years ago, when I did the Ironman, I had two kids, and they were both very young, and they got very used to seeing daddy in bicycle shorts. I'm so sorry for that, and I'll apologize to them later in life. But
there will be a lot of therapy they'll need, but we digress.
But I'm glad that they actually gave me that the nickname of Iron Dad. I had that nickname back in the day, so that was fun. Anyways, it's more about nowadays it's more about being a positive role model for them, and kind of hoping that they will take that on in their lives. Never saying like, yo, 4-year-old, you need to get to the gym. Yo, Izzy, you're looking a little flabby. You got to work those abs a little better.
Start shaming them for how inactive they are. What are you doing playing when you could be doing that?
There's a perfectly fine TV inside, and you're outside playing. What's going on? Yeah, no. Talk to me about How to Be Ultra Spiritual. Where can we find it? I mean, obviously it's on Amazon. We can grab it there. How's the book release been? I know it's been a while now, but how's it been? Is it being well received? Are people loving it?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you asking. It's been out, you're right, for probably about 4 months now. And from my perspective, it's been very well received. And also, honestly, most importantly, I felt inner fulfillment, and I felt like the book was a win before it was even released, because like the journey of writing it was so fulfilling to me, so creatively stimulating, and it felt so purpose driven, because I'm using the language of comedy to convey deeper messages, deeper perspectives. That to me, it's important. People get laughs and entertainment with the book, but what's more important for me is that people get something meaningful from the book. It's what the comedy delivers. That's what's most meaningful to me. So it's nice to say the book is a win before it comes out. If nobody reads it, I will have been thrilled having written the book. But the fact that it's selling well is a nice bonus. And the shows I've been doing to promote the book have been like, those are just great experiences themselves. Sell out crowds of like 500 people in some of them, where it's like, wow, these people, like I feel so honored by them. And we get together and I do some comedy, I do some authenticity, I talk with people. That has been a huge gift. That's been a result of the book. It's like you getting together for those shows. It's like, I don't care about the book anymore. I'm here with you. Like I barely even care about talking about the book. It's like, this is about us connecting in this ocean of communion together. So that honestly, the shows I've been doing to promote the book on the book tour, those have probably been the biggest blessing of the book, to be honest with you.
So great. So great. Wow. Well, everybody knows where they can find you on YouTube, of course, at the JP Sears channel. But where else can we follow you? Where else can we continue to learn to grow more spiritually?
Yeah, I'm on all the usual suspect spots on social media. YouTube and Facebook are the ones that I'm regularly putting out, I'd say, the most valuable content. Awaken with JP on those. And then I've also got some upcoming offerings, comedy tour coming up, and I've got a membership program that'll be launching in the not too distant future. So my website, awakenwithjp.com, you can sign up for my newsletter so that I can shamelessly sell you those kind of things if you're looking to be a part of any of those offerings in the coming future.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to put all that in the show notes, guys, so you can just click and be sent right to it. And of course, the book, How to Be Ultra Spiritual, is in stores. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, JP. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome, Cory. Thank you for doing what you do. And I appreciate you inviting me on.